Welcome back to another episode of the Meat Mafia podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we have one goal and one goal only, and that is that you, yes you, listen to this podcast and get at least one valuable piece of information that inspires you to go radically change your health today. If this is your second, third, fourth, or 100th time listening to the Meat Mafia podcast, we are so grateful to have you, and we are so thankful for your continued support. Before we get going, if you would not mind going and following us on all of our platforms, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course, Twitter, we would greatly appreciate it. This just allows us to expand our reach, and your reviews, comments, and feedback give us more and more things to think about and improve the show with. Lastly, this is a user-supported podcast and newsletter, and we would not be able to do what we love doing without your generous support and the support from our sponsors. We take great pride in the relationships that we've built with our sponsors and truly believe that they are the best resources out there for better health. Your support and their support, and you supporting them, means the world to us. If you are enjoying the podcast and getting value out of it, please check us out on the Fountain app below, where you can support us by streaming us sats or sending us support via our Fountain Bitcoin wallet. Without further ado, here is a word from our sponsors. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Carnivore Bar. The Carnivore Bar is a veteran-owned, animal-based company focused on bringing you the highest quality pemmican product on the market. Pemmican is an ancient tradition practiced by American indigenous cultures, and it's focused on simple ingredients: beef, tallow, and salt. It's built for grab-and-go snacking, and it's a great sort of travel, hiking, or school lunch snack. And it's really built for those long-lasting days where you can just run on basically no fuel other than just simple fats. It's rich in saturated fats and provides everything you need to sustain long-lasting energy throughout the busy day. In my opinion, this is a product that is an absolute must, so go check it out in the link below. Also, check out our podcast with the founder, Philip Meese. He does an incredible job breaking down the mission and the passion behind the company. And I think if you're interested in animal-based nutrition, Philip will inspire you with his product. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Holy Cow Beef. Holy Cow Beef is regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef raised right here in Lubbock, Texas. Regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef is the gold standard of beef, and Ann and Weldon Warren have made it their lives' mission to provide incredibly high-quality beef to their local community and beyond. They have been raising their animals this way for decades. In fact, they were some of the most influential voices for getting grass-fed and grass-finished beef in Whole Foods back when Whole Foods was a startup grocery store. They were influential in setting the AGA standards, which is the American Grass-Fed Association, so you know they are doing things the right way, and on top of all of that, their beef tastes like butter. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef provides a superior omega-3 to omega-6 ratio than your typical beef, or in other words, it causes less inflammation in your body. So you are promoting a high-protein, high-fat diet with this amazingly high-quality beef, and saturated fats are playing their critical role in benefiting your body through supporting hormonal functions and cellular functions. And if you're looking for the highest quality beef, look no further than Holy Cow Beef. Leave your butcher box, that Australian and New Zealand raised meat, in the cart and order from your friends Ann and Weldon Warren over at Holy Cow Beef. I almost forgot the most important part there. Ann and Weldon Warren also accept Bitcoin as payment, so go check them out at their website in the link below, and you can pay in Bitcoin or in cash if you're looking to save your Bitcoin. I don't know about you all, but I am all about rewriting the incentives when it comes to healthcare, and Crowd Health is doing just that. Crowd Health is essentially crowdfunding for healthcare with a small HSA component mixed in. Paying through the nose for health insurance you may never use, only to be turned away when you actually need it, is incredibly frustrating. Also, the exorbitant costs of health insurance has so many baked in premiums that when you compare settling your doctor's bills by paying in cash versus using insurance, the cost is astronomical. So crowdfunding allows you to settle your medical bills in cash and then get the funding you need from your group through Crowd Health. This is a great alternative to health insurance for people who are low risk, healthy people who just want peace of mind knowing that if anything actually did happen, they do have a pool of funds to pull from to cover their medical costs. The best part, my group is saving a portion of the monthly opt-in in Bitcoin, and the rest is in cash. So those savings are going towards actually preserving long-term value for my group through a vehicle like Bitcoin. We are really excited about this concept, and since the business model is predicated on an incentive-based healthcare, it is a great concept. For people with low risk, minimal healthcare costs, it is a no-brainer. Go check them out in the link below and use our promo code MAFIA for a discount on your first 6 months with Crowd Health. Jason, welcome to the Meat Mafia podcast. We are excited to have you. Know you're a big homesteader with a great health story, so it's going to be a good one. We're ready for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jason, before we hit record, we were obviously, Harry and I have watched the Sow the Land YouTube video and have been loving the content that you and your family have been putting out, really documenting your own journey to building this incredible homestead in North Carolina. But we didn't realize that you had also done a stint on the carnivore diet. So we think that you're an honorary member of the Meat Mafia. We like to do a little baptism by bone broth. And because of your experience, we're like, this guy's the perfect fit now. So we love it.
Nice. Bone broth is good. I like bone broth. My wife, we have so much bone broth saved up for the winter, man. Like, we're ready to go.
That's the best part about it, is you can just store it for a significant period of time and just make it in big batches, and like you're good for a while.
We freeze it and everything.
We were really drawn to your story, man, and it sounds like a lot of it started with some humble beginnings with some serious health problems, and then you in like 2008 timeframe, and then you started to evolve your thinking around food and really just like empowered yourself around your own health journey to the point where now you have this homestead, or as we were joking about before we hit record, it might be considered a farmstead or a farm at this point. But I think a great place to start would just kind of be your backstory with some of the health problems that you were having, and then how that's led to where you are right now.
Yeah. So we're out in Western North Carolina. And originally, me and my wife, we met in high school, and we both grew up in just outside of LA, Los Angeles. Never lived anywhere else before in our lives. Like, our family's out there, everyone's kind of within an hour from each other. Like, that's where we grew up. And about 12 years ago now, it's been 12 years, I had just turned 30 years old, and I got diagnosed with cancer, and it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that just kind of I really think that right there is what started us on this journey that we are today. Kind of snowballed into where we're at right now, talking to you guys. And that kind of just changed our mindset, that was totally unexpected, getting the cancer diagnosis. And, I did 6 months of chemo, and that was it. And, no radiation, no surgeries or anything like that. It was just chemo, and they said, you're good. And it was during that time where both me and my wife were like, man, should we be doing something different? Should we, be more active? And I had just ran a marathon when I got diagnosed, I felt like we're pretty active. At the time, I guess I felt like we're eating healthy, and looking back now, I don't think we were, but, it was just we started thinking differently, and like, man, what should we be doing? And, what certain things make us happy? My wife, at the time, she was working in the fashion industry in LA, and I just had a regular like office job. I was a computer drafter, and I was doing that for 17 years. And so kind of all these things were happening all at once. We're like, we're figuring out nutrition and figuring out what we should be eating, putting in our bodies. Like, should we be more active? At the same time, my office job was eating away at me. I was like, I don't know if I want to be doing this for the rest of my life. it was such a weird time because all of this stuff was just eating away at us. And like, it was like changing our mindset of like, what do we really out of life?
Mhm.
And my last oncology appointment, where the doctors said, okay, you're in remission, you're cleared, no more cancer. And I was like, okay, so what now? Like after going through all this, cancer chemo like every other week and all these, like, it's such an emotional roller coaster. I thought, what now? Like, that's it. Like, you just send me off away home and we live ever after, like what now? And so she said, she goes, yeah, just go back how you were living. Just go back to your normal life. And I was like, it makes sense. I figured, I don't know. I figured there was some kind of nutrition plan I needed to follow, or I don't know, like supplements or something. And there was none of that. And so, right then we figured, like, why it was almost like I needed a doctor to tell me what I should be eating, what I should be doing for myself, for my own body. And it's in reality, like, we could just figure it out. Like, we could just, okay, that doesn't make sense. So we're going to try to figure out what we should be doing then. Like, we should be eating healthy, cutting out certain foods. And that kind of snowballed into, we're cutting out more gluten-free diet. We started going more paleo type food, type eating, cut out wheat and sugars and stuff like that, like sodas. And it kind of slowly from there, it grew into like, hey, the only way we're going to know how to, like, what's in our food is if we actually grow it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were reading a lot of the labels. You go to the grocery store and, like, we used to buy a lot of frozen foods, Marie Calendar pot pies, and we love that stuff. And slowly we started trying to cut that stuff out. And then, we both never had like a farm background or didn't know anyone who had a garden, grew food, or had chickens or anything like that. It just wasn't a thing. That we had no friends that did that. And so we thought, okay, maybe we should grow a garden or something. We had a backyard, and we're like, let's just, I don't know, throw some tomato plants in there and see how it goes. And so, after seeing, from the seed to you're picking the tomato from your garden and you're cooking it, like, that whole process is so satisfying. And so that's what we kind of fell in love with. And we're like, man, this is kind of cool. Like we grew a tomato, And so we started like figuring it out from there of like, okay, let's start growing other things. And, I made raised garden beds in my backyard, and we bought some plant starts and threw them in the ground and just try to figure out how to grow our own food. And we really fell in love with that idea. And then at the same time, we kind of joked around like, oh, we're excited of growing our own food, that we're kind of like figuring that out. And we're like, man, wouldn't it be cool to find some land somewhere and maybe we could grow some chickens, maybe we could grow our own meat chickens or I don't know, have some pigs or something. And it was like a joke, right? Or like, no, yeah, that would never happen. Like, we both had careers, right? Like, it was just, where are you going to find land in LA? That's not going to happen. And so we kept joking about it, so this is a good, like, probably 6 years of learning how to grow our own food. We started even like learning how to can our own food. And we started to learn how to live more minimally. Like, certain things just started not to matter anymore. We were big collectors on things. We collect a lot of, like, vintage furniture and stuff like this. And we slowly started saying, we don't need all this stuff. Like, we had a 4-bedroom house and, we didn't need any of these things that we were collecting. And so we started getting rid of things. We started to have almost like a minimalist mindset of like, certain things don't matter. Like, we don't need this. We need, like, I don't need all this stuff that we collect. It doesn't really make us happy, like, it does not do anything for us. It's just nice to look at, I guess. But, so slowly we started getting rid of stuff. And at the same time, we're like talking about, hey, we might find some land somewhere. So if we become farmers one day, we're not going to need this couch, we're not going to need all this stuff. So then slowly started getting rid of things, like just selling it or just giving it away. And I was still working at my office job. My wife at the time, a couple of years after I was in remission, we had our daughter, and she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So, she was tired. She was, 3 hours into traffic every morning, 3 hours to work, 3 hours to home, that kind of ate at her. And like, she was just like, I just can't do that anymore. So she just wanted to stay at home mom. So she was already staying at home. And then I was still in my career office job, and all that was kind of eating away at me too. And I didn't want to sit down anymore in artificial light. I started running a lot. And then, all this was happening at the same time. And it was just we're like changing our mindset, I guess, of we were developing this homestead mindset, like in the city, basically. And so eventually our house was almost empty because we sold a lot of the stuff. Like we sold like couches in the extra rooms and lamps, and there was nothing on the walls. And we had our kitchen table left. And I thought, that's all that's left that's in this house. Like, okay, if we sell our kitchen table, I think we're pretty serious about finding some land somewhere. Mm-hmm. Like, I think this is going to happen. And so we sold our kitchen table. And then shortly after that, we sold our house.
Wow.
And our plan was, we still didn't know what the heck we were going to be doing. Like, I didn't know what we were doing. I just knew that I wanted out of my office job. We wanted more land to grow more food. And that was it. Like, I didn't know anything else. And so our plan was, after we sold our house, we moved in with mom, which she lived like down the street. And we were going to live with her for a year. And then within that year, we're going to go look for land. And so that's what we did. We, still, try to get out of our debts, save money and stuff like that. And we went down to one car, and so within that year, we traveled pretty much, California, Arizona, like kind of West Coast kind of areas, because we didn't want to live far away from family. And so we took a trip down to North Carolina, and we had some friends out here that would tell us about the area, because we'd never even been out in the East Coast ever. Like, furthest we'd been out was like New Mexico. So we took a vacation out there, and we were just going to go visit. And so we really fell in love with the area. I think probably because it's so much different than California. It's green, there's water, there's no drought. There's no drought at the time. And so we thought, okay, well, this is where I think this is it. I mean, this is where we need to be. So then, about, 6 months later, after we came back from that vacation, I was like, the only way we're going to know if it's meant to be for us to find property out there is if we actually go and look at properties. Like, you can look all day online, but we didn't know the area. We didn't know how far away from the city. Like, I didn't know what kind of work I was going to be doing. And so then that's what I did. I took a plane ride on a weekend. I was there for a weekend. We first moved to the Asheville, North Carolina area. And
it's a beautiful area.
I looked at like 12. Oh yeah. And then that's where we're pretty much in the same area now. But I found it was like 12 different properties on a weekend, and I was like, okay, I'm going to see all these properties, and I'm just going to, if it's meant to be, I'm going to find one. And the last property I saw was this 1.5 acres, and it had a mobile home on it. It's a rundown mobile home on it, and it was vacant for like a year. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, I think this is it. As far as my wife, she was like, she trusted me enough to go by myself and just send her pictures and be like, what about this? What about this? And of course I picked a mobile home, and she was like, whatever you do, don't look at the mobile home. She was like, I don't want the mobile home. And of course, the one property that I say that I think this is it. She goes, no, not the mobile home. So that ended up being the property that we bought. With the sale of our house that we sold, we used some of the money to buy that property for 1.5 acres. So then, I still had this job, right? I still had this office job that I was like, I don't know what we're doing. I just bought this property and I don't have no work over there or nothing, right? And we had a 4-year-old, and I was like, well, I'm just going to quit and we're just going to move. And that's what we did. Like, it was like this thing where it was like this momentum, and it kept going. We kept on getting these green lights that said, yes, you need to go. And just before that happened, before we left, and I had already bought the property, but there was a chance that my cancer would have came back, right? Like, I was having these symptoms of cancer come back, like the same symptoms I was having. I was like, this cancer might be back. And I was taking all these tests. So all these things were happening, right? I just bought this property, and I'm like, I want out of my office job. I'm taking all these tests because my cancer might be back. And I'm like, well, if it's back, then we can't go do this. We can't go to North Carolina and go live our dream, because we just can't. And so I took this test. After all the tests, and I went to go see the result, and the doctor was like, no, you have no cancer. It's just some weird thing that you got, and it's happening, but you're fine. That was like the last green light that we needed to be like, okay, go, right? Go. And so, I put in my 2 weeks at work, and we left. And we had sold most of our stuff, and we just left. And the plan is that we were just going to figure it out. Like, if it's meant to be, like, I could go wait tables somewhere, right. Like my goal was to not go back to an office job, and we wanted to be together as a family and work at our, whatever it is that we're doing. We wanted to work together as a family, and we wanted to be as healthy as possible and try to grow as much food as we can for ourselves. And that was our plan. And we've been here almost 7 years now, and I have never been back to an office job. And we just this year we moved to 14 acres. We sold our 1.5 acres after 6 years, and then this year we moved on to 14 because we outgrew that 1.5 acres, and now we're basically starting over on 14, which is totally different. It's like it feels like I'm in, like, it does feel like a farm, like a ranch compared to where we came from. We've been trying to figure it out ever since, but somehow whatever it is we're doing seems to be working because bills are getting paid.
Wow. It's so cool, because it's like, I think Harry and I, thought that we understood and knew your story, which we do because we've consumed a lot of your content. But just to hear that full process from cancer diagnosis to not feeling fulfilled in your job. Same thing with Lorraine, your wife. She didn't feel fulfilled in her job. And I think a lot of people, when they have that feeling, once they start to have a family, they feel like they can't necessarily leave because they're so dependent on that income. But I guess maybe there was this, I keep thinking about the word like faith or blind faith that both of you had, that you were just going to move and figure it out. So it's so cool to hear you tell that story, because I think that's an amazing testament to, like, when you have this vision and you engineer this goal for your life, you can ultimately be in control of just, making it work out. So it's just really powerful is the word that I would use to describe that. So appreciate you telling that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely faith. Like, you got to just hope, man. Like, if this is meant to be, this is going to happen. Like, and it comes down to really, like, how bad do you want it? Like, are you willing to do things, like wait tables? Like, the reality was I had to find work somehow, right?
Yeah.
You have to work, we have a bunch of money or anything. We had a savings, like I had a 6 month savings, right? Like from the stuff that we saved and everything that we sold, we had 6 months. So I knew like we'd be okay for 6 months if we absolutely had to, if I found no job. And also like a plan B. What's the plan B? Well, the plan B is that we would just sell the property and move back in with mom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan B. But what are you going to do? I mean, it just comes down to that. And then, it's hard. It's still hard. I mean, it's still hard stuff, but
right.
you have to really want to do it. And I think an important part too is both me and my wife wanted this. It wasn't just like me or her. Like we were both on board from the get-go. Like it was just, we both talked about our dreams and this is what we both wanted.
Equip's unflavored prime has one single ingredient derived directly from grass-fed beef protein. All the boxes. Go check them out in the link below and use our promo code in the description to get a discount. It's amazing to hear, like it's kind of like this push-pull dynamic where you feel like you're being pulled towards this lifestyle, but then you're also being pushed away from the old one, which was like kind of just consuming you and in some ways like taking away your vitality. And then you take the leap of faith, so to speak. And I imagine the last few years, 5 plus years, you've grown a ton as a person, as a couple, as a family. What have been some of the biggest learning points or moments for you, milestones, as you've gotten deeper into this homesteading endeavor?
Yeah, well, I know when the first probably 2 or 3 years, I felt this sense of like still that I'd done something wrong, because the way we just left our careers and like, we both went to college and stuff and, have a master's degree. And it was like I felt like I was being irresponsible, and I really did feel, I mean, this was a real feeling of mine that I thought that somebody was going to pull up at our place and yell at me and tell me like, how dare you leave like that? Like, how dare you do this? Like it was a real scary feeling for me. I was like, every time a car would go by, I'd be like, oh, here it comes, here it goes. We're going to have this conversation, like it was a weird feeling that never happened. But like, I really feel like that was like doubt, doubt creeping in. And doubt was saying that, no, what are you doing? You can't do this. Like it's not going to work, because on paper, it didn't work. If you were to write everything down and do all the math, you're like, this is not going to work. But so I think being more hopeful, I think helped us. And like, just by the act of us doing things and being here and doing, and our common goal, was to just grow food, build our life that we want. And just the act of doing that doubt that I had would just went away. Like it slowly just kind of vanished. And now I don't have those doubts anymore. So I think just the act of being here, it just helped us be hopeful. Definitely we have grown together as a family more. I mean, my daughter now, she's 11. So she's pretty much been in this lifestyle since she's 4. So like my wife homeschools our daughter, we've been doing it since she was 4. So like, seeing in the way she's growing up, that has changed because that's totally different how both we grew up, she knows how to butcher her own chicken, she's there harvesting pig, we're shaving a pig and gutting a pig, she knows how to do all that stuff, which is crazy to me to think about, but like, it totally changed like our family, how we just grew up. And also like our family back at home. I mean, they were totally supportive of us doing this. They just maybe didn't understand it, but now they see what we're doing and they see like, they get it now, now they love visiting us, They might not like this lifestyle, but they do love visiting us. They do love having good food when they come over.
Yeah, it's almost like you taking action and doing it really was the proof of concept. And it's funny to just think about, not funny, but it's cool to think about the skill set that your daughter is going to have being raised in this environment, which seems to be very different to you. And I know you mentioned you're teaching her how to butcher a chicken. And I remember listening to a podcast with you and Lorraine where you had talked about how, because I live in San Diego right now. So I think you had mentioned that you had gone out to Primal Pastures to a couple of their workshops to learn how to butcher a chicken. So I think for someone that's listening to
that's
this,
how we learned.
Yeah, that's how you learn, is going out there. Yeah. And part of my question was for someone that's listening to this that, maybe wants to get into homesteading or farming, but they don't know where to start. Do you think those workshops are a great way to get started, or is there anything else that you recommend?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all baby steps, right? Like you watch a documentary, of something like that, somebody farming or whatever. And then you buy the books, and then you read the blogs, and then you watch the YouTube videos, and then that gets you even more inspired and hyped up. Right.
Yeah.
And then you start taking, and then after the videos, you take a workshop, that gets your feet wet a little bit more, gets your hands dirty maybe. And then from the workshop, and maybe that'll prepare you even more to be like, okay, I think we could go do this, whatever that workshop was about, And I think that's how the steps go. And some people don't need the workshop. Some people just want to dive in and just do it. But I feel like the workshops are kind of very helpful. And farmers, they want to help, even if they don't have maybe they're selling a workshop, but you could probably just call up a farmer and be like, hey, do you need help? Do you need help doing something? I'll work for free, basically. I don't need anything. I just want to learn what you're doing. And that's a good way of learning too, like without having to do it yourself first, because, if you do it, whatever it is you want to do, raising chickens or growing the garden, you want to be successful the first time you do anything, because if you're not that first time, then sometimes it can be hard to start again. Mm-hmm. Because you just have this I already did it once, I failed, I don't want to do it again because it was a failure, but if you're successful that first time or somewhat successful, then you would want to do it again and improve and improve and improve. So workshop, I feel is a great way of doing it. I mean, we started doing workshops the last few years on our property and because of that, because we're just helping people.
What would you say the learning curve looks like? I imagine you're still learning a ton, but what does that initial learning curve look like for anyone who's about to make the step to buying a property and setting it up? What sort of things would you say to someone to direct them in the right direction so they don't run into some of the mistakes that you might have made early on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to start small, especially if you have no background in farming or animals or nothing. I feel like starting small is very important, and then just work your way up from there. Even with animals, start with chickens. Chickens are the gateway drug, to bigger animals.
You guys just
start with a garden, chicken, and then work your way. With cows, that was just kind of it's so weird. Once the universe knows that you have more property, all of a sudden you just get random phone calls. And they're like, hey, I have some cows that I want to get rid of. I have some pigs. It just happened this week. Somebody asked me if I wanted 5 pigs and more cows. And I'm like, it's tempting, but you got to say no. So yeah, I mean, I guess starting small, that definitely, it's hard to split that. Because if you get a property or have access to a property, you want to do all the things because it's exciting. You want to get all the animals. You want to have the big garden. You want to grow all the food. But I think the reality is we can't all grow all the food. You'll go crazy trying to do that. So I think another important thing is finding a good community around you that are supportive of, or you're all supportive of each other. So that way you don't have to do all the stuff. You know, if I'm doing meat chickens and someone's doing a milk cow, well, let's barter, let's trade, you know, like that's just going to make everybody more successful around you, and everyone can trade knowledge, which is helpful. And so that's important too. Like start small and try to find your community wherever it is that is, or create your own community.
Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. And I think building off that too, Jason, we were just curious, you know, what was the thought process for you to decide to start a YouTube channel and document this whole process? Because I imagine starting a homestead is enough work to begin with, let alone editing the videos, creating the thumbnails, trying to hold the camera when you're out there with the chickens. I'm sure you probably got a bunch of hilarious stories, but yeah, I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So my goal when we moved was not to like, oh, we're going to go start a YouTube channel and we're going to be a YouTuber. You know, like that wasn't my goal when we first moved. I started the channel about a year after we moved. And that was because my family, they were calling us and messaging us and like asking us questions like, what are you guys doing out there? You know, like, why are you out there? You know, like they were supportive, but they still didn't understand why we wanted to move away from them. Right. Yeah. So I started like texting everybody, you know, sending them links or not links, but like just text messages or emails and like short little video clips on my phone of like, hey, this is what we did today. Like look at our garden, you know, or look at our daughter, you know, she's butchering a chicken, you know. So then that got old after a while. So then I just kind of like created a video, uploaded to YouTube, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start a channel and just send our family a link. And that's how it started. Like I created it for our family back at home so they could see what we're doing for the day. You know, I could show it was for my grandma, you know, it was for my mom, you know, so they could see their granddaughter, you know, grow up basically, you know, because we took their granddaughter away, you know, like she lives so far now. And so it was just showing our family back at home what we're doing. And from there, it just kind of slowly started growing, like, which I didn't fully understand at first of how it worked. But, you know, slowly I've learned a lot from it, but, I think it was about 6 months after we were doing the YouTube channel is when I started to get people, like random people just emailing me and just saying, hey, you know, they want to come and visit, you know, like, I don't know these people, they want to see our farm, you know. And I got this mom emailed me. She was like the first person to do it. And she was like, hey, we know you're in the Asheville area. And we never say where we're located, right? Like we got to be somewhat private, right?
Yeah.
So she was like, I know you're in the Asheville area just by watching your videos, you know. She goes like, can me and my family come out and you show us your farm, show us your garden? Because we just never seen food grow in the garden before. You know, like, you know, for whatever reason, I said yes. Mm-hmm. And they came out. So, I mean, what the reason why she asked was because her son was eating a pickle. You know, sometimes pickle have a little stem at the end. You know, it's a cucumber, right? Like it came from a cucumber. That's where they picked the cucumber. And so she was explaining to them like, hey, it used to be a cucumber. And they didn't understand it because they'd never seen a cucumber grow in a garden. And so she wanted me to show them. And so they came out and we showed them our garden. They were holding baby chickens for the first time. And we had a bunch of cucumbers growing. I was like, look, this is where your pickle comes from. You know, like we sent them home with a bag full of groceries from our garden, you know. Oh, cool. And it was cool. Like it was, I mean, just to see their eyes light up, you know, when they're holding that baby chicken, when they're eating that cucumber out of the garden, it was like, wow, this is crazy because like that family lived 5 minutes down the road, right?
Wow.
And they found us through YouTube. And they were asking us, this family from LA that just moved out, like how to show how to grow, what food, where food comes from. And I was like, I was just blown away at that experience. And I thought, okay, the people are finding us, and they're being inspired of the things that we're sharing. And so I knew from right then, I was like, we need to keep on sharing this. We need to keep on talking about it and document what we're doing, because people are feeling inspired about it.
I think I read this somewhere that homesteading and farming was like the most searched YouTube, search for 2020 and through 2022. And it seems like it's blown up. Is that something that you've experienced? Like, I mean, your account is probably a great indication of it, but there's several others as well.
Right. Everyone, I mean, we have friends now. I mean, it's weird. There's probably like, I don't know, 5 homestead YouTubers, like kind of all within kind of the same area. Really? So we're all friends. We all kind of became friends. So like, yeah, we've seen it. Even going to, there's these like Homesteaders America event that's coming up this weekend. That's in Virginia. There's all these events popping up that are homestead farming related, and like they're huge. Like you're talking like last year, that event, 5,000 people showed up.
Wow.
And all these, all our, homestead type YouTube channels have definitely grew in the last couple of years, because all of a sudden people want to know how to, there's a pandemic and everyone wants to know how to grow something.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is it amazing to think back to like a few years ago when you're starting your YouTube channel just so you can give your mom insight into what her granddaughter is doing on the farm, and now you have almost 200,000 subscribers that are coming to you looking to learn more about homesteading and how you live your life and grow your food?
Yeah. It is. It's wild to think about. So sometimes I still believe, our videos are very still meant for our family. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that 200,000 people are also watching.
Yeah.
But it's I mean, sometimes we'll meet people that watch us in real life, and it's nice, it's inspiring to keep going, I guess.
What maybe to change gears a little bit, just to go back to your nutritional story, because I think it's a really important one for our audience, and it will resonate with our audience well. So you started thinking about going over to the carnivore diet around 2018 after you read Paul Saladino's book, The Carnivore Code. Is that correct? And then you've kind of just continued to toy with it and experience the benefits of, eliminating some of these more harmful compounds or macronutrients that might be playing some harm on your health.
Yeah. I mean, we grow a lot of our own food, right? So, doing the carnivore diet was not something that I really wanted to do, because I thought, well, we grow organic food. Like we raise all of our, at the time it was almost all of our meat. And I thought, what is happening? I was having really bad eczema, like really bad skin rashes. I don't know. We didn't know what was happening. We went through all the doctors and the tests and all this stuff, and they just say, well, you just have eczema. There's no cure for it. It's just, you're just basically going to have to deal with it. You take all the steroids that they want you to take, and nothing was working, man. I was pretty much bedridden. I really was. And so somebody had told me like, oh, have you heard this carnivore diet? And I was like, I mean, I think I heard of it before, that's when I've heard of it, but maybe a video here and there. That's when I bought his book, Carnivore Code, and I knew his story was, I think he was having some like rash issues, I think some eczema issues or something. that's when he started the carnivore diet. And I was like, oh, well, when you go to all the doctors and all the tests and no one can give you answers, you'll try anything, like whatever works. And so I thought, okay, let's, maybe I should try this, and so that's when I tried it. I did the carnivore for I think it was about 3 months. And I felt a lot better. Like I felt like I had really red, like just fiery red skin, man. Like it was kind of torture. And that slowly the redness started going away. I was still eating like some fruits here and there. I wasn't like hardcore carnivore or anything like that. But I was eating more organ meats and stuff like that. And I really did feel like it helped. And after 3 months, I felt good enough to like start introducing other foods. Also, we had like a 2,000 square foot garden in the backyard. So that was hard to not eat from.
Right.
So I was like, man, I guess I'll have another steak tonight,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I felt like it helped me. And then since then, I mean, we've always kind of been about eating more meats. But since then, for sure, I mean, both me and my wife and daughter, like, I think we're gravitating more towards that more meat, like lifestyle. And even, I just felt like it really helped me. I don't know what it is about it. It's kind of hard to explain to people, but
yeah, it's definitely tough to explain until you try it. But there is that anti-inflammatory nature to it, where a lot of people with gut issues or eczema, like you experience benefit from it just because it reduces a lot of the inflammation. But I'm curious, so the eczema, did you notice it immediately start to go away once you started incorporating more meat into the diet? Or was it something that you couldn't just cure with nutrition?
I think it was like a slowly, gradually going away. It wasn't like instant. And it never completely went away.
Yeah.
It just wasn't as bad, like I still have it. I still have really bad issues. Gotcha. And even actually this week I started to feel a little bad. And then I actually started on that diet, the carnivore diet again this week. And I feel like maybe it's one of those, I honestly think this is just the way I am. For whatever reason, I get these issues, these skin issues, right? Like, I don't know what else to think about it, almost like accepted it. Yeah. I've accepted it,
This is just part of the thing.
And it's difficult and it's hard, but I feel like maybe that the carnivore diet it helps me like maybe to reset, like maybe treat it as like a kind of a reset button kind of thing.
Yeah.
And seeing how it goes. So, I mean, I think it's great though.
It looks like Brett might have gotten bumped off the Wi-Fi, but he actually experienced a similar experience to you, where he had an autoimmune condition that he cured through a carnivore diet. And it sounds similar in the sense that lifestyle wise, he does have to kind of keep the guardrails tighter than usual. Like, I don't have to deal with that. And I can, obviously I eat mostly animal based, but he seems to run into problems even in like high stress situations, like traveling a lot or not getting enough sleep. Flare-ups can happen. So it's just like, it seems like these autoimmune conditions are becoming more common. And unfortunately, diet seems like the main culprit and kind of the serious solution if people are trying to fix some of those problems.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's not, and I guess that's why, we wanted one of the reasons why we wanted a bigger property, so we could raise a beef cow, you know, and raise more meat,
Do you guys have 2 cows right now?
Yes, right now. We're planning on butchering them in December.
Okay, cool. How has that process gone from going from chickens to cows?
It's different. Like it's way different. It's a different, yeah. Going from chickens to cows is like, it's scary to be honest, like at first, because you see, I mean, going from chickens to pigs is scary. We went from chickens, pigs, and then cows. And then, because they're just bigger animals and they could just bulldoze you over if they wanted to,
Right.
they could just run you over, but they don't. Like actually they're pretty tame. They're almost like, I'm going to say like, they're almost like one of the easiest animals you can raise.
Really?
Because they're just trained on one wire. You got one wire that's electrified and that goes all the way around them and they don't go past it. Like just one wire, this big beast, this big cow, like don't challenge it or nothing. They just maybe might hit it accidentally and it'll zap them, but not really. But if they wanted to, they could just go right through it.
Right.
But they don't.
Interesting. Yeah, and
So it's kind of neat.
Would you say chickens are a little bit more adventurous in terms of like escaping or?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah, they can escape or fly over a fence, and yeah, you're chasing them down. You have to get a net, one of them pull cleaning nets to grab them. Cows don't do that. You train them on alfalfa bucket. I mean, that's like drugs to a cow. Like they'll love it.
It's so funny how many people say that they'll do anything for that alfalfa.
Yeah, it's wild.
Do you have any good stories from the past few years on the farm that stand out to you as particularly entertaining or funny?
Yeah, the first time that we raised pigs was on our 1.5 acres. In our 1.5 acres, we were on a busy road, right? And it was 1.5 acres, so it wasn't huge, and we're surrounded by homes. But we were raising 2 pigs, and I trained them, I trained them with a bucket to follow me, a feed, right? And I was moving them from one spot to another. And I didn't have no netting around them or nothing. I just had my bucket. I would shake it and they would follow me. They did that every single time. But this one time, they decided not to do it. And as soon as I let them out of their pen, they took off.
Oh, no.
They didn't even follow me. They didn't even look at me. They just took off, right? And we're busy road. I mean, you're talking, it was probably like on a Monday. People were going to work in the morning, right? And so they took off and they're running straight to the road for the road. And that has been my biggest fear of raising bigger animals, because I knew we were on a busy road. I was like, if a big animal gets out, it's going to get ran over and destroy a car,
Oh yeah.
And so me and my wife were like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like this pig was just took off. I mean, you're talking like at this point, this pig was almost 150 pounds at least. And we were trying to lower it back down, and pigs, they don't have stamina. They run out of stamina quick, so they'll get tired.
They can move quickly.
And so we were on a hill. Yeah, they're super quick, but to get to that road, which they were headed to, they had to go up this hill that we lived on. And so I think by the time they got up to the hill, they kind of stopped and were tired. And so I started like giving them belly rubs. Like here's a FedEx driver, like they're literally like by the road, right? This FedEx driver comes hauling, like I'm here, we're like got pigs everywhere. And I'm sure they had a laugh, but I was giving this pig belly rubs, and eventually they just turned right back around and went down the hill and went back to their pen. And I locked them up. I was like, oh man, that was like our biggest fear. Because you're not going to get a pig back. Like,
no,
we'd have to put that pig down like in the street, I'd be out my rifle and get him.
That's like some Orwellian. That's like an Orwellian story. The animals are fighting back a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we videoed it too. We have a YouTube video about it.
Oh man, I'm gonna have
the whole thing. I think it's called Our Biggest Fear, Pigs Escape, or something like that, the title. But yeah, we kept the camera rolling, and for however that worked, we got all of it on camera.
That's amazing. Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. We get questions all the time about how to start this sort of thing and get involved in homesteading. So we just appreciate your knowledge and you sharing your story with us. And we'll put all of your information in the show notes. I guess Sow the Land on YouTube is the best place to find you. Is there anywhere else to find you in terms of like website or things like that?
Yeah, we have our own website, sowtheland.com, and we're on Instagram at sowtheland. So we're on all the social medias at Sow the Land. So I appreciate you having me on, man. This was fun. It was nice meeting you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, great meeting you as well, Jason. And we'll look forward to getting to meet up in person sometime. I'm heading back to Virginia at some point here, so maybe I'll make my way down to North Carolina.
Yeah, man, that would be awesome. Man. Anytime, man. Just give me a shout. Maybe come visit the farm.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Jason.